All right. Now, this one's interesting to me. I'm going to kind of go through it quickly. But the Redfin CEO expects absolutely insane demand in housing market to last into 2021. And this is from CNBC. So the CEO of real estate brokerage Redfin, Glenn Kelman, told CNBC on Thursday that he anticipates the Rona-driven boom in the housing market will persist into next year. The demand for housing is primarily being driven by affluent professionals who are able to work remotely, Kelman said. That has given them the option of moving out of major metropolitan. I messed that up. I knew I was going to mess it up. I messed it up as I read through it the first time. Metropolitan. I almost said metropolitan, but metropolitan areas into more distant suburbs, or he said buying vacation homes and then taking a permanent vacation where they're working from those homes. So when we do, like Ray said, we have more on that later. So we all know this stuff, right? This isn't really anything new, but here's where it gets interesting, in my opinion. His quote, low interest rates are motivating home buyers. However, he pointed out that interest rates will not always be low. Now, Ray, a week or two on the show, I mean, that's a obvious statement, but a week or two.
Sensational.
Was it last week on the show? We mentioned that economist. She said for the next few years that they're going to stay 3 years. Yeah. They're going to stay around 3%. So that's the opposite of what she said. Now here's his quote. Part of what is fueling this boom is the economy has just split into two, and rich people are able to act. Remember, this is a quote. This isn't us saying this. Rich people are able to access capital almost for free. So of course they're going to use that money to buy homes. And then he goes on to say, there's just another group of Americans who are still struggling, who can't access the credit because we've raised credit standards and you have high unemployment. I just think those two trends at some point have to collide. So
if those trends collide, which way would we go? Would we restrict money for the rich, or would we give more money to those with bad credit? Like, what is he saying is going to be loosed?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know. And it seems so black and white to me. There's nothing black and white about this, because if what he was saying were true, then that lower part of the income bracket wouldn't be buying any houses, and we'd have a ton of inventory in the lower end of the market, right?
Yeah, you would think that there would be more inventory if the lower income folks or bad credit folks didn't have access to cash. But what is his definition of rich people?
Well, that's the other thing. And Mike Elizabeth Rodell makes a great point, because usually during these times of uncertainty, quote unquote, rich people are saving their money. They're not buying anything.
Yeah.
If you follow Dave Ramsey, then you're saving right now.
Or it's Susie Orman. You're not making a move at all.
No. Well, but right now we should be crashing. Your house should be worth 50% less if you're listening to Susie Orman.
Yeah. So that's an interesting perspective. We know that they look at the data from around the country as they kind of peel through what's happening in the MLS. I would be interesting to hear more of what he's thinking. Like, okay, what if that collides? You have rich people that are getting more access to money, other people that can't buy houses. So are rich people going to be then buying houses at the lower income to rent to
and then rent them out, right?
But you have a credit check before you rent these days.
Well, it's hypothetically or theoretically looser credit lines to rent a home than it is to buy a home. Because remember, not the only reason, but the reason they're tightening credit is because lenders are overwhelmed right now. They wanted to slow it down. Remember, we had Frank Gray on from the Brian Stevens and Frank Gray show. What is it called? National Real Estate Post.
Yes. Which we're featured on the website by the way. So I'll mention that every time we mention their show.
So don't go to our Facebook page and follow it and then watch every show and share every show. Go to their page,
but follow it and watch every show.
Yeah. Go follow them and then you'll get us. But he meant they tightened it up on purpose so they could slow down their workload, and then they'll just adjust as they need. And private lenders can adjust whenever they want, really.
Yeah. So okay. So let's say we'll quickly move on to this afterward, but let's say that he's saying, well, these tightened lending constraints for people with okay credit, that needs to be loosened. Aren't we putting ourselves at risk of another subprime?
Well, how much loosened based on how tight they've become, or loosened even more?
Yeah.
I just think his statement is a little broader, a little too black and white, and a little, it's a little biased just where he sits. He's the CEO of a company, and what he sees, the numbers he sees, and it's only one company. You know, I don't know if he's watching national trends like we do.
I don't know if he's definitely not watching our show. He needs to watch our show.
That's I think the problem, Glenn.
He'll get more of the information that he's looking for if he watches the show.
Yeah.
So, all right. So let's go. Let me see if anybody's. Good comments here. Christian Harris says, I remember what happened last time, that they thought it was a good idea to make it easier for people with poor credit to qualify for mortgages that they predictably couldn't afford. Yeah. See, this is exactly what we're saying.
See, I don't think he's saying that though. I don't think he's saying.
He's definitely alluding to it. I mean, he's
right.
I mean, what's the agenda behind him saying that there's two classes of people more separated than ever, divided by good and bad credit, or rich and bad credit? Which, by the way, you could have good credit and not be rich. I mean, can we?
Well, he doesn't say specifically bad credit though. He says those who can't access the credit because we've raised the credit standards, and then you have high unemployment.
So the credit formerly known as
right. Bad credit. That's just the CEO way of saying bad credit.
Yeah, it is. It's a clean way of saying what he thinks is bad credit.